Nothing cuts deeper than betrayal from the people you trusted most. It's not just disappointment. It's a deep wound that shakes the foundation of everything you believed in. One moment you feel safe, secure, certain of the people around you. The next, it's as if the floor beneath you has vanished, and you're free falling into disbelief. The shock, the anger, the heartbreak. It feels like the world you knew was a lie. You replay the moments in your head, searching for signs you might have missed, trying to make sense of the senseless. How could they do this to me? That's the question that echoes in your mind over and over again. But the truth is, betrayal isn't about you, it's about them. And yet, knowing that doesn't make it hurt any less. It doesn't erase the sleepless nights, the restless thoughts, the hollow feeling in your chest. The pain is real, the trust is gone, and now you're left to pick up the pieces. So, how do you rebuild when the very people who should have protected you were the ones who hurt you? The answer isn't easy, but it starts with a choice. Will this break you, or will it build you? We're raised to believe in the idea of unconditional loyalty, that family will always have your back, that friends will stand by your side, that love guarantees trust. But life has a way of exposing the difference between comforting illusions and harsh realities. Some people will be there for you until it's inconvenient. Others will claim to support you until jealousy whispers in their ear. And sometimes the very people you sacrificed for will be the first to turn their back on you. It's a painful truth. Not everyone clapping for you wants to see you win. Trust is fragile. It's like glass. Once shattered, you can try to piece it back together, but it will never look the same again. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Not just losing them, but losing the version of yourself that believed in them. But betrayal isn't always personal. It's often about fear, insecurity, or their own unresolved struggles. Understanding why it happens won't erase the pain, but it will give you clarity. And clarity is power, because once you see people for who they truly are, you stop expecting them to be something they're not. And that's when real freedom begins. Betrayal doesn't just steal a relationship. It steals a piece of you. It shakes your confidence, makes you question your judgment, and plants seeds of doubt that can take years to uproot. You start wondering, was it all a lie? Was I blind? Am I too trusting? Too naive? And those questions don't just affect how you see them. They affect how you see yourself. That's the real cost of betrayal. Think about Julius Caesar. Stabbed in the back, not by an enemy, but by a friend. Et tu, Brute? Those 3 words held more pain than the knife ever could. Because betrayal isn't about losing someone. It's about realizing they were never who you thought they were. The mental and emotional toll is heavy. Some let it turn into resentment, carrying that weight for years. Others let it make them cold, shutting people out to avoid being hurt again. But here's what they don't tell you. Betrayal forces you to confront an uncomfortable truth. You can't control what people do. You can't make them loyal, honest, or true. But you can control one thing: how you respond. And that choice? That's where your power begins. Pain is powerful. It can paralyze you, trap you in bitterness, make you afraid to trust again. Or it can transform you. Look at the people who have faced the deepest betrayals. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job, told she wasn't good enough. Steve Jobs was pushed out of the very company he built. Nelson Mandela spent years behind bars, betrayed by those who once stood beside him. But here's the difference. Some people let betrayal define them. Others use it to refine them. Because betrayal is like fire. It can destroy, but it can also forge steel. It can make you stronger, sharper, more resilient than you ever were before. The difference? Mindset. Some people stay stuck, reliving the pain, replaying the hurt, carrying the past like a weight on their back. Others decide, this won't break me, this will build me. So, what will you choose? You can let betrayal make you bitter, or you can let it make you unstoppable. You can let it close your heart, or you can use it to sharpen your vision. Because the people who betrayed you, they didn't take your future, they only revealed who was never meant to walk with you. Betrayal can break you, but if you let it, it can also build you into something unshakable. The first step, shift your focus. Stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what will I do next? Because healing doesn't start when you get an apology. It starts when you decide that their actions won't define your future. You might never get closure, you might never understand why they did what they did, but here's the truth. Closure isn't something they give you, it's something you create for yourself. And part of that process? Learning to trust again. Not blindly, not foolishly, but with wisdom, with discernment. Because here's the irony, the deepest wounds often create the strongest warriors. Some of the most successful people you admire, they didn't just face betrayal, they turned it into fuel. They refused to let their pain make them small. So, here's the question. What will you do with yours? Your past betrayal doesn't define you, but what you do next, that will. Their betrayal was never about you, it was always about them. When someone you trust turns against you, your first instinct is to wonder what you did wrong. You replay every conversation, every decision, every moment, trying to find the mistake that pushed them away. But the truth? Their betrayal was never a reflection of your worth, it was a reflection of their character. Some people betray because they fear losing control. Others do it because their own insecurities won't let them celebrate your growth. And some? They simply lack the integrity to stand by you when it's inconvenient. But none of that has anything to do with you. Think about it. If betrayal was about you, wouldn't the most honest, loyal people in the world be immune to it? But they're not. Even the greatest leaders, the most loving friends, the most selfless givers have all faced betrayal. So, what if their actions had nothing to do with your mistakes, and everything to do with their own fears? What if their betrayal was their way of running from their own inadequacies? Let that sink in, because the moment you stop taking it personally is the moment you set yourself free. Jealousy, fear, insecurity, control. These are the silent forces that drive people to betray even those they claim to love. Some betray because they envy your success, some because they fear being left behind, others because they can't stand the thought of you rising while they remain stuck. Think of it like this. Some people are like crabs in a bucket. They see you climbing higher, but instead of cheering you on, they pull you back down. Not because they need to, but because they refuse to watch you escape a life they feel trapped in. And here's the real tragedy. Most betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from people who were supposed to be in your corner. Friends, family, mentors. The very people who should have lifted you up, but their actions weren't about you. Their betrayal was a war they were fighting within themselves, a war between who they are and who they secretly wish they could be. So don't let their actions define your path. See them for what they are, not a judgment of your worth, but a reflection of their wounds. And don't you dare let their wounds keep you from winning. How many times have you dimmed your own light just to keep the peace? How many dreams have you buried because someone made you feel guilty for wanting more? You tell yourself, maybe if I stay small, they won't feel threatened. But here's the truth. Playing small won't protect you from betrayal. It only makes you easier to control. There are people in your life who only liked you when you were struggling. The moment you started rising, they became uncomfortable. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your growth forced them to confront their own stagnation. And so you shrink, you hold back, you say less, dream less, become less, just to make them feel secure. But at what cost? The cost of your potential, the cost of your happiness, the cost of a life that was meant for more. Listen carefully. The ones who truly love you will never ask you to be less. They will never require your suffering as proof of your loyalty. So, stop playing small. Stop dimming your light, because those who can't handle your shine, they were never meant to walk this journey with you. They doubted you, they mocked your dreams, maybe they even laughed behind your back, convinced you would never make it. But let me tell you something. History is filled with stories of people who were told they would never succeed, until they did. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job because they said she wasn't fit for TV. Now she's a global icon. Albert Einstein was told he would never amount to anything as a child. He went on to change the world. Even Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was cut from his high school team. You see, the doubters always speak first. They say, "You'll never make it." Then, when you do, they say, "I always knew you could." But your success was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving yourself right. It was about believing in yourself when no one else did. So, the next time someone doubts you, let them. The next time they betray you, thank them. Because one day, when you rise, they will be forced to admit they never saw it coming. What if their betrayal was actually the best thing that ever happened to you? I know it hurt. I know it felt like the ultimate betrayal. But sometimes, betrayal isn't a curse, it's a course correction. Sometimes, the people who walk away were never meant to be part of your destiny. Think about it. How many times have you held on to relationships, friendships, or business partnerships that deep down you knew weren't right for you? How many times did you ignore the red flags? Betrayal forces you to see the truth. It strips away illusions and reveals who is truly meant to walk with you. It pushes you to grow in ways you never would have otherwise. J.K. Rowling was abandoned by her husband, broke, and struggling as a single mother. That pain could have destroyed her. Instead, she wrote Harry Potter. Steve Jobs was fired from the company he built. That loss could have ended his career. Instead, he came back stronger than ever. So, what if their betrayal wasn't your downfall, but your breakthrough? What if their exit made space for something greater? Don't let their actions define your future. Use it. Let it fuel you. Rise higher than they ever imagined. You have a choice. Drown in their betrayal or rise because of it. Pain is inevitable, but what you do with it, that's where your power lies. When someone betrays you, your first instinct is to retreat, to let the weight of their actions crush you. But here's what you need to understand. Their betrayal was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of your next chapter. Think about it. Every great comeback starts with a setback. Every powerful leader, every successful entrepreneur, every person who has ever achieved greatness, they've all been betrayed at some point. But instead of letting it define them, they used it. They made a choice. So now you stand at a crossroads. You can allow their actions to dictate your future, to keep you stuck in bitterness, replaying the hurt over and over again, or you can take control. You can decide that their betrayal was nothing more than fuel, a reason to rise, to become stronger, to prove to yourself that nothing and no one can break you unless you let them. So ask yourself, are you going to let their actions define your life, or will you take control of your own story? Stop waiting for an apology that may never come. Stop expecting people to be who they've proven they are not. One of the hardest truths you'll ever have to accept is that closure doesn't always come wrapped in an apology. You may never get the explanation you deserve. You may never hear the words, "I'm sorry," from the people who hurt you the most. And if you're waiting for that to move on, you're giving them power over your life. Think about it. Every second you spend waiting for them to acknowledge their wrongs is a second you're not spending on your own growth. Some people will never take accountability. Not because you don't deserve it, but because they don't have the capacity to face their own flaws. So, here's your choice. Will you let their silence keep you in pain, or will you free yourself? Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing what they did. It doesn't mean letting them back in. It means choosing peace over bitterness, healing over resentment. It means understanding that their inability to apologize is not your burden to carry. The longer you wait for closure, the more power you give to the people who hurt you. But the moment you decide to stop expecting people to heal the wounds they created, that's the moment you take your power back. A knife can wound, or it can carve something stronger. It all depends on how you use it. Pain is not the enemy. Staying stuck in it is. When betrayal hits, it feels like your entire world is crumbling. The hurt, the anger, the disbelief, it consumes you. But what if pain wasn't meant to destroy you? What if it was meant to shape you? Look at history. The strongest people you know, the ones who inspire, who lead, who seem unshakable, they weren't born that way. They were made. And do you know what made them? Pain, rejection, betrayal. Every scar, every wound, every setback, it all became part of their foundation. So instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "How can I use this to grow?" Your pain can be a prison or a tool. It can make you bitter, or it can make you wise. It can keep you locked in the past, or it can push you into your future. But here's the truth. The only difference between the people who rise and the people who stay broken is what they do with their pain. What will you do with yours? Instead of focusing on loss, focus on lessons. What did their betrayal teach you? Betrayal hurts because it forces us to let go of something we thought was real. A relationship, a friendship, a sense of trust. It shatters, leaving nothing but pain behind. But pain is only wasted if you refuse to learn from it. Think about it. If you don't learn the lesson, the cycle repeats. You trust the wrong people again. You ignore the warning signs. You let the same kind of people into your life, only to be hurt in the same way. But when you shift your mindset, everything changes. Instead of seeing betrayal as something that happened to you, see it as something that happened for you. What did this experience teach you about yourself? About boundaries? About the kind of people you allow in your life? The people who betrayed you were your teachers, even if they never intended to be. They showed you exactly who they are. More importantly, they showed you who you are becoming. You can either sit in the loss, or you can extract the lesson. One will keep you stuck, the other will set you free. So ask yourself, what if this pain was the push you needed to step into your true power? They lied, they doubted you, they walked away, and yet, here you are. Think about that for a second. They thought you wouldn't survive without them. They thought their betrayal would break you. But you're still standing, and that's proof of your strength. History is filled with stories of people who turn pain into power. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first TV job and told she wasn't fit for television. Now she's a media empire. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter changed the world. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years only to emerge stronger and lead a nation. You see, betrayal doesn't define you. What you do after does. So ask yourself, who will you become because of this? Will you shrink? Will you let their betrayal convince you that you're not enough? Or will you prove to yourself that no setback, no rejection, no loss has the power to keep you down? Because if history has taught us anything, it's this. The people who are underestimated, the people who are rejected, the people who are betrayed, are often the ones who rise the highest. And you are no exception. How long will you let their betrayal define you? How many days, months, or even years will you replay what they did in your mind? Every moment you relive that pain, you hand them power over your future. And for what? Do you think they're losing sleep over it? No, they've moved on. They're living their life while you're still standing in the wreckage of what they left behind. So, I ask you, are you living your story? Or are you stuck in the one they wrote for you? Are you letting their choices dictate your worth? Because every time you say, I can't trust again, or I'll never be the same, you're reinforcing the damage they caused. But here's the truth. They don't get to decide who you become. You do. Betrayal is painful, but staying stuck in it is a choice. And you have a different choice right in front of you. You can keep carrying their mistakes, or you can break. You can let their betrayal define you, or you can let it refine you, but you cannot do both. You're carrying weights that aren't yours to bear. You don't even realize it, do you? Every grudge, every ounce of resentment, it's like carrying heavy stones in your pockets, weighing you down, step by step. You wonder why you feel drained, exhausted, stuck. It's because you're carrying burdens that were never meant to be yours. You didn't betray yourself, they did. You didn't lie to yourself, they did. So why are you the one suffering? Why are you still carrying the emotional baggage of someone else's mistakes? The longer you hold on to their betrayal, the less space you have for your own power. And power is what you need right now. Drop the weight. Let it go. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve to walk free. You deserve to step into your future without dragging the past behind you like a chain. The choice is yours. Carry the weight or set yourself free. Forgiveness, it's a word that makes some people flinch. Because forgiveness feels like letting them off the hook, right? Like saying, it's okay. But that's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. Holding on to resentment doesn't punish them. It poisons you. It seeps into your thoughts, your energy, your ability to trust, to love, to move forward. Every day you hold on to the anger, you're the one suffering. Let's be clear, this isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It did, and it hurt. But forgiveness is you saying, I refuse to let this control me any longer. It's you choosing to break free from the grip they still have on your emotions. Because if you don't, they win. They keep you in a prison of pain while they walk free. So, set yourself free. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Not everyone deserves access to you. That's a hard truth, but it's one you need to accept. Some people have proven time and time again that they can't be trusted with your heart, your energy, or your time. And yet, you keep letting them back in. Why? Because you think if you give them another chance, maybe this time they'll get it right? Maybe this time they'll finally treat you with the respect you deserve. But here's the thing, patterns don't lie. If they've hurt you repeatedly, they've earned distance, not another opportunity to do it again. Think of your time like a bank account. Every person in your life should be making deposits, support, encouragement, love. But if all they ever do is withdraw, if all they do is take and take, eventually you'll be left empty. Protect your energy, protect your peace. Stop making withdrawals for people who never deposit. You are not a victim. Let me say that again. You are not a victim. What happened to you was unfair, yes. It was painful, yes, but it does not define you. A warrior isn't made in comfort. A warrior is forged in battle. And you have been through the fire, and yet here you stand. They may have tried to break you, but they failed. They may have left you, doubted you, underestimated you, but they did not destroy you. Every great warrior has scars. Yours are proof of survival, not signs of defeat. Your past does not define your future unless you let it. You have the power to rewrite your story, to take every painful chapter and turn it into fuel for your comeback. So the question is, are you going to stay down or are you going to rise? Because warriors rise. And that's exactly what you were born to do. Look around you. The world is full of people who were once counted out. People who were abandoned, betrayed, overlooked. And yet, they rose. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Now she's a global icon. Tyler Perry was homeless, sleeping in his car. Now he owns one of the biggest film studios in the world. Their stories weren't supposed to end in success, but they rewrote them. And so can you. Walking away isn't easy. Healing isn't easy. But staying stuck, that's harder. Staying bitter, that's heavier. You have proof that you can rise because you're still here. You've survived what should have broken you. You've made it this far, and you're still standing. If they couldn't see your worth, that was their blindness, not your invisibility. But now, it's time for you to see it. It's time for you to believe it. It's time for you to rise. Because the next chapter, that one belongs to you. Every great comeback starts with a breaking point. That moment when life feels like it's collapsing, when the weight of betrayal, disappointment, or failure is too heavy to carry. That's where transformation begins. It's easy to see the breaking point as the end, but in reality, it's the doorway to a new beginning. Think about every great success story. Before the rise, there was a fall. Before the breakthrough, there was pain. Before the strength, there was struggle. Oprah was fired. Steve Jobs was pushed out of the company he built. Nelson Mandela sat in a prison cell for 27 years. They all faced a breaking point, but they didn't stay broken. So now ask yourself, is this where your story ends, or is this where it truly begins? Because the only thing standing between your breakdown and your breakthrough is the decision to rise. You can let this moment define you as someone who gave up, or you can use it as fuel to create the greatest comeback of your life. The choice is yours. Are you living in the shadow of their betrayal, or standing in the light of your own strength? Because you can't do both. You can't hold on to the past and move forward at the same time. You can't live in their lies and step into your truth simultaneously. The betrayal happened. The pain was real. But how much longer will you let their actions control your story? The people who hurt you, who abandoned you, who underestimated you, they don't get to define you. You do. The problem isn't what they did, it's the meaning you keep giving it. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become because of it. Will you let their actions keep you trapped in bitterness and regret? Or will you decide, today, that your life is bigger than their betrayal? At some point, you have to stop reliving the pain and start reclaiming your power. Because the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. It's time to step out of the shadow and into your own light. A phoenix doesn't rise from comfort. It rises from fire, from destruction, from ashes. And so do you. Yes, you've been burned. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the failures. They scarred you. But scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you survived, that you endured, that you walked through the fire and came out on the other side. Pain can do two things. It can break you, or it can build you. The difference is the choice you make. Will you let the fire consume you, or will you let it forge you into something greater? The fire that tried to destroy you is the same fire that will make you stronger. The pain that was meant to break you is the same pain that will elevate you. You are not meant to stay in the ashes. You are meant to rise. So rise, not in spite of what happened, but because of it. Because the greatest version of you is waiting on the other side of this fire. You can't control them. You can't control what they did, what they said, or how they treated you. But you can control what happens next. So many people waste years waiting for an apology that may never come. They hold on to resentment, hoping it will somehow hurt the person who hurt them. But let me tell you something. Your healing is not in their hands. It's in yours. The closure you're looking for doesn't come from them, it comes from you. It comes the moment you decide that you will no longer allow someone else's actions to dictate your peace. What happens next is up to you. You can let their betrayal be the reason you stop trusting, stop believing, stop trying, or you can let it be the reason you grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. You don't need their validation. You don't need their permission. You don't need anything from them. The only thing you need is the decision to take back your power, and that decision starts today. Enough waiting, enough overthinking, enough making excuses for why you're not where you want to be. The time to reclaim your life is now. You keep saying, I'll heal when the time is right. I'll start over when I'm ready. I'll move on when I feel strong enough. But let me tell you a truth that might be hard to hear. There is no perfect moment. There is no magical day when everything feels easy. The only time you have is now. Waiting doesn't heal wounds. Time doesn't fix what's broken. Action does. The moment you decide that you are done letting your past control your future, that's the moment everything changes. If not now, when? If not you, who? If you keep waiting for life to change, you'll be waiting forever. But if you decide right now that you are done living in fear, in regret, in hesitation, then you'll realize that the life you want has been waiting for you all along. It's time. No more waiting, no more excuses. The next chapter of your life starts today. You need proof? Look around. Everywhere you turn, you'll find people who were betrayed, abandoned, doubted, but who refused to let it define them. Tyler Perry was homeless before he became a billionaire. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before she created one of the most successful book series in history. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise isn't what happened to them, it's what they did next. And let me remind you, the same power that was in them is in you. The same resilience, the same strength, the same ability to rise no matter what tried to break you. Every setback holds the seed of a comeback if you choose to grow from it. Every betrayal can either chain you to the past or set you free to build something better. So the question is no longer whether you can rise. The question is, will you? Because your past isn't your prison. It's the foundation for your rise. Now go. Prove to yourself what you're capable of. Survival is the bare minimum. It's breathing, but never living. It's moving forward, but never truly arriving. You weren't meant to just survive what happened to you. You were meant to thrive beyond it. Don't just move on. Rise up. There's a difference between leaving something behind and building something new. Moving on means time has passed, but rising up means you've transformed. And that's the real challenge, isn't it? Not just to escape the past, but to step into the future you were always meant to create. So ask yourself, are you merely running from what broke you, or are you running toward the life you deserve? Because there's a difference. One is survival, the other is strength. One is reaction, the other is power. It's not enough to say you're over it. It's not enough to say you're healing. You have to show it. With your actions, with your choices, with the person you decide to become. Because the best response to the people who thought you'd never make it is not to just move on. Is to rise up so high that their opinions no longer matter. They thought they could break you. They thought their words, their betrayal, Their rejection would be enough to keep you small. They doubted you, they hurt you, but they do not define you. Their disbelief does not dictate your potential. Their cruelty does not carve out your future. You are not the sum of what they did. You are the sum of what you choose to do next. Think about this. How much of your life has been shaped by their actions? How much of your self-worth has been tied to their opinions? It's time to take that power back, because who you become is not in their hands, it's in yours. Let them talk, let them doubt, let them assume you'll never be more than the version of you they created in their minds. That's their limitation, not yours. Your story is still unfolding, and the best part? They don't get to write the ending. So let go of the need for their validation. Stop waiting for them to admit they were wrong. You don't need their apology. You don't need their approval. You only need one thing, a decision. A decision to rise despite them. A decision to succeed because of you. Your life is a book. Every day a new page. Every decision a sentence that shapes the plot. But here's the question. Who's holding the pen? Are you still letting the past dictate the future? Are you allowing the people who hurt you to still hold the power over what happens next? Because if you are, you're letting them write your story. But it's your book, your future, your pen. And today is the moment you take it back. You don't have to be the victim in your own story. You don't have to keep rereading the same painful chapters, convincing yourself that's all there is. You can turn the page. You can start fresh. You can write something different. Something powerful, something unstoppable. If today was the first page of the rest of your life, what would you write? Would it be a story of limitation or a story of transformation? Would it be about holding on to the past, or would it be about taking ownership of the future? Because at the end of the day, one thing is certain. Someone is writing your story. If it's not you, then who? Some people will never apologize. They will never admit they were wrong. They will twist the truth, rewrite history, and act like their actions never had consequences. And if you're waiting for their confession, you'll be waiting forever. But here's the truth. You don't need it. Their silence does not hold your future hostage. Their lack of acknowledgement does not determine your healing. You don't need their permission to move forward. You don't need their validation to grow. Because closure isn't something they give you, it's something you claim for yourself. It's the moment you stop waiting for them to fix what they broke. It's the moment you stop needing their words to heal the wounds they left behind. The truth is, people rarely admit when they're wrong. They rarely own up to the damage they've caused. But you don't need their guilt. You don't need their confession. You only need one thing, the decision to let go, not for them, but for you. Enough waiting, enough analyzing, enough telling yourself that one day things will change. That one day the pain will disappear, that one day the past won't sting as much. One day isn't coming. The only moment you have is now. You need your own transformation, and it starts today. Because transformation isn't about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself right. It's about stepping into your own power, realizing your own worth, and becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. So stop looking back. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop hesitating on the edge of your breakthrough. This is your moment, not to react, not to dwell, but to rise.